Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. My name's Karli Barnett. We want to give you a look at some of the stories that we are following for your Sunday. Of course, you can join us tonight at 10 and 11, at 10 on Peachtree TV and 11 tonight on CBS. We hope you will join us there. In just a minute, we're going to have First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin join us, and you're going to want to stay tuned for his forecast because he is tracking some chilly weather that is headed our way. It is descending upon us now, so I guess at least it'll make us feel a little more seasonal as we head into the week ahead of Christmas. So we want to give you a look at some of the stories that we are following today. Now, one of these is a cold case that the GBI is actually asking for the public's help on. It's been 1 year to the day since the death of Joshua Mitchell. Now, he was a Marine veteran that was found dead in his driveway. Today marking 1 year since he was found outside of his Douglasville home. Joshua Mitchell, who was 37 at the time, was a Marine Corps veteran. He was a well-known contractor and a family man. And now the GBI and the Paulding County Sheriff's Office are asking about any leads in his homicide. It was December 17th of 2022. The deputies were called to a house in the 500 block of Warrenton Drive. They had received several 911 calls about shots being fired. When they got there, they found Mitchell in the driveway outside of the garage with several gunshot wounds, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. So the GBI is asking anyone who has information to call the anonymous tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS. That is 1-800-597-TIPS. You can also submit a tip online or on See Something, Say Something app. So a lot of different options there. They are asking the Paulding County Sheriff's Office and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation if you have any information regarding the death of Joshua Mitchell, someone who was a contractor, someone who has served our country. The circumstances of his death still unclear to investigators what took place and why this happened. And so they are hoping for this not to become a cold case. If you know anything about what took place that night in Douglasville this time last year, you are urged to reach out to investigators. All right, taking you back out here live. This next scene is something that we were at today. We are still awaiting more information, but I do want to give you a look at Atlanta News First on the scene earlier today at the Swift Creek Apartments. These are in DeKalb County. This location is at 2591 Whites Mill Road, and that is where police were called to some sort of shooting investigation. Now, at this time, it's still unclear exactly what took place. We're trying to figure out how many people were involved as a result and were injured. This was earlier this afternoon in Decatur, 2591 Whites Mill Road at the Swift Creek Apartments. So still at this hour. The next thing that I wanted to tell you about was a story that our reporter Joshua Skinner did. And because it's the weekend, I know I gave you some heavy headlines there, but we do want to focus on a nice positive story. And it was actually graduation this weekend for Georgia Tech students. And one man who received his master's degree had quite a long road to get there. And he says with the degree that he has, he wants to help give back to others after his own story and his wife's story So here's what Joshua has to say. He shares this very inspiring story tonight.
In a sea of caps, there are innumerable stories. Matthew Parzik is one of those stories.
Data analytics is my degree.
Matthew's interest in the subject emerged after his wife Erin was diagnosed with breast cancer 11 years ago.
Over-the-top support, over-the-top everything, where he just went to bat for me and made sure I had the best care.
I was amazed at how they were using data analytics to determine how to treat her.
So the software engineer applied for and was accepted into Georgia Tech's Masters of Analytics program. But during the summer of 2019, just one semester in, he suffered his own tragedy.
The last thing I remember is walking over there.
Matt was in Florida helping a friend install a Murphy bed when it collapsed on him, causing a traumatic brain injury.
Well, we're driving up, through our street, and I see a fire truck and an ambulance, and I knew immediately for some reason that it was Matt.
Matt was in a coma, one doctors worried he would not emerge from.
They thought I was going to die.
Erin kept the faith.
He's going to walk across the stage at Georgia Tech, and he's going to graduate.
Matt came out of the coma and began rehab, relearning how to stand, walk, and use his phone. When Matt's condition improved, he asked to be transferred, so he was taken by plane from Florida here to Atlanta and the Shepherd Center for the next stage of his recovery. By the start of fall, with support from Georgia Tech, he was back in the graduate program and working as a teaching assistant.
The TA thing gave me a lot of confidence because I realized I remembered a lot of what I learned.
And as it became his time to walk across the stage,
Matthew Parzik.
Let's go, Matt! Woo!
Erin's prophecy came true.
She was my healthcare advocate. She was my biggest cheerleader.
Matt's quick recovery is unusual for a TBI. He knows this, and he intends to enjoy each and every step.
I don't use the word lucky. I feel fortunate.
I'm Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First. In a sea of caps.
All right, such a remarkable story there. Now, you may just now be joining us and saying, Karli, I only got to view a small portion of that story. Well, that's my mistake, guys, because I have given you your top stories, and apparently our video was on private. Do not ask me how that happened, but, hey, technical issues happen. So, if you are just joining us, I'm going to reiterate those headlines for you because that was my mistake there. Just a minute from now, we are going to have First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin join us with a chilly forecast. So you're definitely going to want to hang on to that. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and reiterate those headlines. My apologies, guys. You were probably saying, wow, I can't view any of this. We have Wesley now watching from Ackworth. Hey, Wesley, thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and get right back into those news headlines for you. As always, you can join us tonight at 10 and 11, 10 on Peachtree TV, 11 tonight on CBS. We have you covered. We've got our crews out there this evening. But there are a few stories that I want to draw your attention to. And one of those is the GBI is asking for the public's help tonight. Wesley says my audio is a little bit lower. Let me bump that up a little bit. Let me know if that's any better. But the GBI is asking for the public's help to help them solve a case that happened exactly 1 year ago today. And they are hoping that this case does not go cold. But today marks a year since a Douglasville man was found dead in his driveway. Joshua Mitchell, who was 37 at the time, was a Marine Corps veteran. He was a well-known contractor and a family man. And now the GBI and the Paulding County Sheriff's Office are asking for information about his homicide. On December 17th of 2022, deputies were called to a house in the 500 block of Warrenton Drive. They had received several 911 calls about shots being fired. And when they got there, they found Mitchell in the driveway outside of the garage with several gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead on the scene. So the GBI is asking anyone who has information to call their anonymous tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS. You can also submit a tip online or on the See Something, Send Something app. I'll give you that number again, 1-800-597-TIPS. This is in regards to Joshua Mitchell, who was found shot and killed outside of his home last year. This is a Marine Corps veteran, and investigators, the GBI and Paulding County Sheriff's Office specifically, are just trying to figure out what took place 1 year ago today. So they are asking if you know anything at all, please reach out to investigators that could help them solve this case because they don't want it to go cold. The next story that we want to bring you to is an investigation that is taking place in DeKalb County tonight. DeKalb County police on the scene after reports of a shooting at an apartment complex. We were out there earlier. This took place at 2591 Whites Mills Road, and it was at this apartment complex. You'll see here in a minute the scene there. DeKalb County police out with the crime scene tape up after reports of shots fired. Now, it's still unclear at this hour exactly what took place there or how many people were impacted, how many people were hurt, and the extent of those injuries, but this is in Decatur. DeKalb County Police handling this. We are waiting to get more details as far as what exactly they are looking into, but this does come after reports of shooting. So this is in Decatur at the Swift Creek Apartments. Again, still no word on how many victims, but Atlanta News First was out there to try to get answers, and we are hoping to have more confirmation on things just ahead of our newscast tonight. But if you want to continue to stay updated with this, you can always go to atlantanewsfirst.com. Of course, you can also download our app as well. That's where you can get breaking news updates sent directly to your phone. All right, this next story, you may have caught the tail end of it, but I want to play it again anyways because, Wesley, I'm glad the audio is better. Thank you so much for letting me know about that. We want to try to end the weekend on a little bit of a positive note. And our reporter, Joshua Skinner, it's Georgia Tech's graduation weekend this weekend, and he caught up with a man who had to overcome a lot of obstacles in order to see this graduation day. And now he wants to use his degree to help others who dealt with what he did and who dealt with what his wife did. I'm going to let Joshua Skinner explain his story.
In a sea of caps, there are innumerable stories. Matthew Parzik is one of those stories.
Data analytics is my degree.
Matthew's interest in the subject emerged after his wife Erin was diagnosed with breast cancer 11 years ago.
Over-the-top support, over-the-top everything, where he just went to bat for me and made sure I had the best care.
I was amazed at how they were using data analytics to determine how to treat her.
So the software engineer applied for and was accepted into Georgia Tech's Masters of Analytics program. But during the summer of 2019, just one semester in, he suffered his own tragedy.
The last thing I remember is walking over there.
Matt was in Florida helping a friend install a Murphy bed when it collapsed on him, causing a traumatic brain injury.
Well, we're driving up, through our street, and I see a fire truck and an ambulance, and I knew immediately for some reason that it was Matt.
Matt was in a coma, one doctors worried he would not emerge from.
They thought I was going to die.
Erin kept the faith.
He's going to walk across the stage at Georgia Tech, and he's going to graduate.
Matt came out of the coma and began rehab, relearning how to stand, walk, and use his phone. When Matt's condition improved, he asked to be transferred, so he was taken by plane from Florida here to Atlanta and the Shepherd Center for the next stage of his recovery. By the start of fall, with support from Georgia Tech, he was back in the graduate program and working as a teaching assistant.
The TA thing gave me a lot of confidence because I realized I remembered a lot of what I learned.
And as it became his time to walk across the stage,
Matthew Parzik.
Erin's prophecy came true.
She was my healthcare advocate. She was my biggest cheerleader.
Matt's quick recovery is unusual for a TBI. He knows this, and he intends to enjoy each and every step.
I don't use the word lucky. I feel fortunate.
I'm Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First. In a sea of caps, there are innumerable stories. Matthew Parzik is one of those stories.
Data analytics is my degree.
Matthew's interest in the subject emerged after his wife Erin was diagnosed with breast cancer 11 years ago.
Over-the-top support, over-the-top everything, where he just...
All right, I wanted to start playing again there for a second, but such an inspiring story, and definitely great how he wants to use his degree, use his gift to help others in his position. So, one more thing that I do want to bring up before I toss things over here to Cutter, this ties right in, is that some warming centers will be opening in DeKalb County. Temperatures are going to be going down. So, this is just good information for you to have, for you to pass along to someone who may need it. But it's because of the cold weather we're anticipating. DeKalb County is opening 5 warming centers. That is going to be the 17th, which is today, tomorrow the 18th, and then Tuesday the 19th, all starting at 8 p.m. each night. And there's a couple of different locations for you here. Fire Station 3, which is on Clarendon Avenue in Avondale Estates. Fire Station 4, which is on Flakes Mill Road in Ellenwood. Fire Station 6 at Flat Shoals Road in Atlanta. There's also the North DeKalb Senior Center, which is on Malone Drive in Chamblee, and Frontline Response International on Gresham Road in Atlanta. So you've got Fire Station 3 in Avondale Estates, Fire Station 4 in Ellenwood, Fire Station 6 in Atlanta, North DeKalb Senior Center in Chamblee, and Frontline Response International on Gresham Road. So hopefully some of that information is helpful if you need it, or again, if you can pass it along to someone who might. On that note, let's go ahead. I'm going to give you a live look outside here at Atlanta. This is actually a very nice shot. Yeah, a little haze up there.
Yeah, the city lights kind of reflecting off of all those clouds that we had today. Still have.
So, Cutter, we're talking about this cold weather. It's kind of damp, kind of drizzly today, which just kind of feeds into that whole mood.
It does.
But we're starting our week tomorrow, so we want to know what we can expect.
Yeah, sunshine back in the forecast, but kind of topsy-turvy here. You'd think more sunshine, meaning warmer weather, but that is just not going to be the case. Chilly air, cold air filtering back into North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. So already it is a fairly cold outside, and you probably had to use the jacket today, and it is only going to get chillier as we get into the work week. We're going to adjust our camera here and then bring you up to some weather graphics here in just a moment. So bear with me right quick, and we'll have it all set up for you here in just a couple moments. Again, right now we're tracking chilly conditions. You see the clouds outside right now. They are higher in the sky than they were earlier, so we're starting to see those clouds lift just a little bit, and then overnight tonight, eventually, we will see conditions improve and a little bit more of the, not only the drying, but eventually some clearing in the First Alert forecast. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in and for watching. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin here to give you a check of the First Alert forecast on ANF Plus, Atlanta News First Plus. Thank you for tuning in. Karli just wrapping up the news headlines. Now we're talking weather, and there is a lot to discuss. We have some changes on the way, drier, sunnier, but yes, also colder. Wesley Millsap is watching up in Ackworth. I'm sure you felt the chilly temperatures today. One of the cooler spots. In fact, I was just checking in northern Cobb County, southern Bartow County, southern Cherokee County, already back in the upper 40s rather, and eventually everyone back in the upper 40s. Though we'll bring you to the map right now. Currently, it is in the upper 40s and lower 50s. That's kind of the average around the region, but lower 50s reserved for the city of Atlanta. Just a little bit warmer inside the perimeter, so just keep that in mind. It is a little bit warmer, of course, in the city, no surprise there, but it is chillier up in the mountains. Blairsville, you can see 49 degrees, 50 in Rome, 51 Covington, 53 in Locust Grove. So yeah, it's chilly out there. You will probably need the light jacket if you do have evening plans. If you're maybe headed out to take the dog on that final walk, jacket is a good idea, and it will only get chillier as we go deeper into the evening and the overnight forecast as we begin to see that drizzle exit across North Georgia, exit the area, and the drizzle and the low clouds are replaced by a clearing sky and colder weather, breezier winds too, settling back into North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. So again, that's the rule at the moment. The short-term forecast, upper 40s, lower 50s, what we have now, it will remain in place for the next couple of hours, and then as we get into the early morning hours, kind of pre-dawn stretch there, we'll see our temperatures continuing to cool back. I'm going to open up weather graphics here. Bear with me so I can control the graphics, kind of give you that full weather story and talk about everything that is expected to go down here over the next couple of days. Really, it all revolves around a strong front moving through North Georgia. In fact, all of the southeast. Maybe you have early holiday travel plans this week and you're headed down to coastal Georgia or places like that, even northern Florida, over to Charleston. A busy time for those holiday beach destinations, and they too will cash in on some of this much colder air that's filtering south and eastward and back into much of the southeast behind the same storm system that brought us the drizzle and the clouds today and that swamped southern Georgia and portions of the Carolinas today. And that same system is kind of working its way up the East Coast and will impact folks further up to the north, including much of the Northeast. In fact, we can go ahead and bring this up for you live. This is the big picture here for you. Not too much going on behind it. We had that first alert today due to this system yesterday evening rather, into the overnight hours and then on into this morning. But that same system is now pushing off to the north, and it is a soaker of an evening. I-95 corridor, the big cities, Norfolk, up to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Boston, all dealing with soaking rain. And this will impact flights. If you have business plans, holiday plans, maybe an early trip, trying to see New York City and the holiday season time. I have some friends actually trying to get there tomorrow. Flights have been canceled in some cases. Others have been delayed. This is going to be a super soaker for much of the Northeast big cities. And then behind that, it will be rain and wind. And then it's going to be wind and cold, not just for them, but also for us. We'll kind of lay that out for you in the first alert forecast. So again, bear with me here. Weather graphics being a little bit touchy tonight. Hopefully we can get this queued up right here for you, but right now having a little bit of a struggle trying to get into the system that helps us move our weather graphics. Now looking like it's behaving, so hopefully we can keep that going. Back to the forecast, though. All about improvement for North Georgia, Metro Atlanta. It'll take some time. I think we could wake up to a little bit of that low cloud cover, perhaps a couple of sprinkles lingering tonight through about midnight, 1 a.m. Dry, absolutely dry out the door tomorrow morning. If there are some sprinkles, it's going to be in the near term, here over the next few hours. And as we go into tomorrow morning, yes, we'll still have some clouds, but it'll be a dry forecast. We're not too worried about the concern for rain. We will see that rain and drizzle, what we have already had today, exit the region and move out of North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. Out the door tomorrow morning, I think it will feel chillier than this morning. You'll certainly notice that. Temperatures in the upper 30s, lower 40s versus the mid and upper 40s that we woke up to this morning. Yes, it was chilly getting out the door, but let's also remember that this morning we had the clouds. Tomorrow morning will be a little bit clearer, and that is why we are expecting tomorrow morning to also be just a little bit on the colder side. And we will be working to fine-tune that forecast, but plan on it being about 5 to 10 degrees colder than it was this morning, tomorrow morning. So a lot of folks still in school for the holiday season, trying to get out the door early in the morning. You will be dealing with chillier temperatures, upper 30s and lower 40s. You're factoring in the breeze. It will feel like the low to mid-30s. Certainly, I would say cold enough for the winter gear, that coat out the door tomorrow morning, and the day will begin with a mix of sun and clouds. Eventually, though, I think that those clouds will give way to complete sunshine. Sunshine will win out in the first alert forecast. Temperatures tomorrow morning, 42 Atlanta, but 33 up in Blairsville, 37 in Dalton, 38 in LaGrange. Excuse me, a little under the weather here the past couple of days. 39 in Griffin, 37 Dalton. So it's chilly, mid to upper 30s outside of pretty much everyone outside of the perimeter. 40 or colder inside the perimeter, just a little bit milder in the lower 40s in general, though you get up to Sugar Hill, 38, and maybe Buckhead, maybe Sandy Springs, those near north perimeter communities, right down to about 39 or 40 or so, 38 in Palmetto, 39 McDonough. It will feel colder tomorrow morning with that breeze factored in. I'm going to walk you through what some of our forecast models are saying as far as tomorrow morning. I think tomorrow's the first day that you'll start to notice a change, some of that colder air starting to filter back into North Georgia and Metro Atlanta, but trending much colder as we get into Tuesday. So let's start our clock at midnight right now, kind of underdoing the clouds. We certainly do have more clouds than what this particular forecast model is showing. So keep that in mind. Forecast model may not be hitting the nail on the head exactly, not getting it 100% right, but it has a decent idea with the flow of air here, and that is to bring colder air, drier air from our north back into North Georgia. You can kind of see that the clouds even moving from north to south here on that particular forecast model, kind of screen right there. And as we get into the morning hours tomorrow, there will be clouds, especially up in the mountains, hanging on to a little bit more of that cloud cover. I think a mix of sun and clouds, maybe partly to mostly cloudy across the metro out the door tomorrow morning. As we get into the noon hour, temperatures will gradually recover, not warm though. Temperatures by noon, 1 p.m., back in the lower 50s in Atlanta, 50 in Lawrenceville. Mountains probably staying in the mid to upper 40s tomorrow into the early afternoon, factoring in that same breeze that we were just talking about. Mid to upper 40s in the shade, going to feel like upper 30s, lower 40s. It will be a brisk day across the board, but coldest feeling, of course, up in the mountains. Warmest temperatures we'll see all day. Again, I think mountain communities, LJ, Blue Ridge, Clayton, so from Fannin County all the way to Raven County, Clay County, North Carolina, and then down into Lumpkin County, those higher elevation spots probably staying sub 50, colder than 50 tomorrow afternoon. Further south, I think low to mid 50s will be the rule. What about 54, 55 for a high temperature in Atlanta tomorrow? Warmest 3 to maybe 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll cap it there, and then colder air filtering in. In fact, you can see on this forecast model the shades of green up in the mountains of East Tennessee, far western North Carolina, outside of our area. Could be a little bit of rain-snow mix up there, maybe some highest of elevation sort of snow, an inch or so. And that's kind of on the high end, but at least some flakes flying there up in the mountains for us. That same cold air mass is not going to cause any wintry weather here, but it will lead to plummeting temperatures Monday evening. In fact, notice by 7 p.m. dinner time Monday, numbers already back in the 30s in the mountains, 40s elsewhere, and shortly after that time, by the time we get to mid-evening, 9-10 p.m. on our Monday, temperatures back in the mid to upper 30s, even in the metro by that point. And the breeze will be blowing, so it will feel even colder. Temperature of 41 by 10 p.m. in Atlanta. We're going to wake up Tuesday morning, and it will be freezing. Temperatures in the upper 20s. That's all the way into the city. Outside of I-285, so on up to, for example, Milton, Alpharetta, Roswell, even the south side city of South Fulton, the Palmetto community, Redan and Lithonia, southern DeKalb County. These spots, solidly in the metro, but they're outside of I-285. They will be in the mid to upper 20s. I think upper 20s inside the core of the city. 20 up in Blue Ridge Tuesday morning, 22 in Clayton, lower 20s LJ as well. Big freeze across the board, hard freeze up in the mountains in some of our typically colder spots outside of the immediate metro. And with the wind factored in, it probably will feel like it is in the teens Tuesday, so do keep that in mind. If you, I know a lot of students still in school, not really getting off until the back half of this week, leading up to Christmas. So getting the kiddos out to school, getting yourself dressed for work, if you're still headed to the office, you will need all of the winter layers. Monday, tomorrow is chilly, but Tuesday is freezing. Even afternoon temperatures struggling to get back into the mid to upper 40s Tuesday afternoon. Again, it's looking like it's going to be a very cold Tuesday. That's as warm as it gets, that 46 Tuesday afternoon. Another widespread freeze Wednesday morning, another widespread freeze or frost Thursday morning. In fact, winds probably at their calmest Thursday morning, so actually probably more of a noticeable frost by the time we get to Thursday morning. A little warmer technically, but a little bit more moisture in the air and less wind. But regardless, plant lovers, if you haven't saved your sensitive annuals, the summer stuff, if you haven't moved them to the greenhouse yet, or if you've been trying to protect them, a heads up that you will need to cover them once again. And then some changes as we get into the latter portion of the week. We're going to see temperatures start to warm back up by Friday and Saturday. More clouds also back in the picture. But up through the 23rd, we're going to keep your forecast dry. There is a pretty complicated weather setup. Of course, they all tend to have a little bit of complication, but a storm system moving out of the southern plains, the desert southwest, once again moving from west to east, and could bring widespread rain back into our picture as we get into Christmas Day, just beyond the 7-day forecast. Something we will be alerting you to, and of course, if it looks like rain is widespread and long duration enough to impact your holiday plans, we'll stamp that first alert on Christmas Day, keep you updated, and let you know how you can plan around, how you can best adapt to the wetter weather that could impact North Georgia. In fact, much of the Mid-South and the Southeast late Christmas Eve evening on into Christmas Day, perhaps the 26th as well. Again, timing is of the essence here, and kind of still the $64,000 question, how that storm system ejects and moves through the Southeast and exactly when we see the most widespread wet weather here across North Georgia and metro Atlanta. So again, kind of going along tonight, chatting a bit, letting you know how the work week is going to play out. I want to thank you all for watching a variety of platforms: Roku, Amazon Fire, AtlantaNewsFirst.com, the Atlanta News First app, First Alert Weather app, and of course YouTube. Answering Wesley, chatting with us this evening. If you have any weather questions, comments, concerns, a reminder, you can always reach out to me on social media. Cutter Martin at CUTTERMARTIN, Threads, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Rest of the team here as well. I know it's a time of year, especially this week, and early next week, where so many weather questions run abound. And you can always reach out to First Alert Meteorologist Ella Dorsey, Courtney Jacobazzi, Patrick Pete, Fred Campagna, Rodney Harris, myself, and First Alert Meteorologist, Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, and we'll be keeping you updated. And on that note, not too many changes in that late night forecast, but we will be back on air, on TV, streaming as well. Atlanta News First on Peachtree TV, Atlanta CW affiliate at 10 p.m., and then back on at WANF, hopefully on time tonight after the big game at 11 p.m. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Hopefully you get out and enjoy it again. Pull out the winter gear if you put it back up, because we have some much colder air on the way. And we'll be talking more about that in the First Alert forecast starting in about an hour and 30 minutes.